All right, today we're going to be covering Iman Gachi's $100 million Trojan horse play, and it's probably not what you think it is. I'm sure everybody knows Iman, but I bet you have no clue how he and many other info business owners actually make their money. Let's just get right into it. Everyone sees his flashy lifestyle content, the cars, traveling, the courses, the guru content, but behind all of that is a Trojan horse play, a software company. And behind all of his funnels, all of his info product launches, he's quietly built a $100 million plus software asset. Now, let's just get into the problem with each model. Info products versus software. Info products like courses, coaching, etc., are hard to monetize long term, but they're very easy to sell. They're saturated and they have a ton of high price competition. So, because there's so many of them, basically, the more people there are in a market, the more price is going to get driven down and the more assets become commoditized. And because of that, they have LTV caps because usually people buy courses, coaching, consultant no more than one time. Obviously, you can sell people up your value ladder, but ultimately, there's no real recurring revenue in the model. Software, on the other hand, is hard to sell initially, but it's super easy to monetize long term because if you actually solve somebody's problem with software and you continuously solve it, they're going to have to stick with that platform or that software for the rest of their careers or until they achieve their dream outcome, which is usually continuous for business owners. Software usually has longer sales cycles and it's pretty expensive to get going. And it also has very high cold acquisition costs. So, on the other hand, info, you can sell quite easily because it's based on emotion. And you can get that quick turnaround on an info product. But with software, it's a longer, higher information, more sensitive sales cycle because it's seen as a longer term commitment, which ultimately leads to higher CAC. Let's just break down Iman's funnel and exactly how he's layered software into the funnel to build that $100 million asset outside of info. So the first step is all the content we see. So he made content to attract aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. Step two, he's funneled them into his info products, whether that's course, coaching, consulting. In this case, it's Educate, or I think he launched something recently, Digital Launchpad, which is another coaching or course program. And then step three, whoever purchased his info product ultimately gets funneled into his software Flowsy, which is known as the mechanism or the platform that you need to use in order to achieve the dream outcome that you've been promised in the info product. So as you go lower and lower into the funnel, he's qualifying his leads, he's filtering out people who are not serious, and the people that bought his info product most likely want to have a successful business. And if he's the authoritative figure that says, okay, this is the platform I use to run my agency or my SMMA, and this platform you need to use in order for you to achieve your dream outcome, the reason you bought the info product, you're probably going to convert on that. So ultimately, the info product is the front facing Trojan horse. And then the real business that stacks up a ton of recurring revenue and a bunch of enterprise value is the software that you have to purchase in order to succeed, quote unquote. And we've seen this not only with Iman, but with a bunch of entrepreneurs. For example, Russell Brunson, who's the god of info. Every single time he does a new launch, whether it's coaching, courses, consulting, or a challenge offer, in the bottom of that funnel, he's always plugging in ClickFunnels because he knows he can use the info product to liquidate his cost of acquiring the customer. And then he makes pure profit and increases his enterprise value on the back end with ClickFunnels, which is extremely sticky because if you're running any info product, you need a funnel builder. And he's teaching you how to build your info products and how to launch your funnels with his information. But then the key mechanism you need to use to be able to execute that is ClickFunnels. And in this case, Iman Ghazi is teaching SMMA in his content, in his courses, in his coaching, in his consulting. And then in order to execute properly, you need his platform Flowsy that lets you run your SMMA. So using info as a Trojan horse to liquidate your front end cost of acquiring a customer, and then using software as the back end upsell to build recurring revenue and to lock people into much higher LTVs than info is the most efficient way to go if you're already running an info funnel and doing well. So let's just break down his multi-channel content strategy. So top of funnel, and a lot of coaches, course sellers, consultants, you guys are probably doing the exact same thing. You have top of funnel content, which is usually lifestyle, motivational, a bit more general, in order to capture the eyeballs of your ideal audience. And then in your middle funnel, you're making content that goes a bit deeper. So strategies, frameworks, a bit of behind the scenes in order to filter out people who are just looking for the dopamine hit. This is actually more actionable content. So obviously you're reducing the size of your audience, but it's much more high intent. And then at the bottom of the funnel, what Iman Gadzhi did is very technical SMMA content, how-tos, breakdowns, case studies, etc., offer creation, onboarding, retention. And then the bottom of funnel viewers, although it is a much smaller pool than the top of funnel, they are much more warm and higher intent in order for you to sell a software on the back end to. So every piece of content that he's put out is an entry point into the ecosystem of his products. The top of funnel is an entry point into his info products. The info products are an entry point into software. So that's exactly how he's doing it. And if you already have a successful content funnel or info funnel running and you have not plugged software into the back end of your funnel, you're probably leaving millions of dollars in revenue on the table, or profit, to be honest, because software products are usually 95% plus margins. And not only that, you're missing out on a ton of enterprise value. An info business, unless you're Khan Academy or something like that, is going to be very difficult to sell down the line. So let's just break down the valuation of info products versus SaaS products. For info, on the front end, they're easy to sell to consumers because you're selling a dream. You're selling something that's very tangible and easy and requires almost no work on the buyer's end other than logging in and reading things and watching videos. However, on the backside of that, the valuation multiple for info is it's almost zero. Unless you're an established info product company with processes, with team members, that you can replace your face from the business, you're not really going to be able to sell. When investors are looking into buying a company, the first question is going to be, can this business run without the founder as the face of the brand? Is this something we can grow without the founder? And is it not limited by the founder's personal brand? So typically, an info product is not going to get anything more than a 1x multiple, 0.5x multiple on annual revenue, maximum 2x multiple. Obviously, if you're like a Khan Academy, you're going to get a lot more than that, but that's a much deeper business model than what most of you guys are doing. On the other hand, software on the front end is very difficult to sell, like to cold traffic. But it is easy to sell to warm traffic who have already bought something from you and who you've already gotten results for with information. Bottom line, if you're already selling somebody the information, like the how to achieve their dream result, why not also plug in the actual system that lets them achieve their dream result, like the actual product that solves their problem? And software multiples are obviously insane. We've seen companies get even 20x multiples, but let's say average ballpark is 5 to 10 X on your annual revenue, not your MRR, but your annual revenue, or more. So a software company is really something that can run without you consistently making content without tying your face to it, because you're actually delivering the product or the mechanism that lets your prospects achieve their dream result, and they have to stick with it. So you're stacking monthly revenue and you're building enterprise value. So to wrap it up, courses are easy to sell on the front end. Software is very hard to sell to cold traffic. Information sells the dream, and SaaS actually delivers the system to help your clients get there. And bundling these two together makes the offer a lot more valuable and easy to sell, because if you bundle it, if you use information like an info product, course, whatever, as the front end to liquidate your cost of acquiring that client, whether it came from ads, content, cold outreach, whatever, you can then sell software on the back end to a portion of those prospects who bought your info product. And all of that is pure profit ultimately, because software is much stickier. Then an info product, once somebody finishes a course, they're kind of done. They're going to move on. They're either going to execute or they're going to do nothing. But software, on the other hand, is sticky. It's something they have to use all the time, which ultimately results in a higher LTV. And I know what Iman does is once you buy his program, whether it's through Educate or whatever info program he does, in his offer stack, he gives you 1 year free access to Flowsy. So that's bundled in already. And that way you already are a customer of it. You can use it for a year. You can get results. Your business relies on it and it's sticky. So he's basically using info to build a backdoor software empire. The formula, and a lot of you guys might already be doing this. So if you are and you haven't plugged software into the back end of your funnel, please consider it. Basically, you create niche content, sell a course, and on the back of that, to a percentage of the people that bought your course, your consulting, your coaching, you sell software, and that helps them ultimately either run or scale their business or solve a really difficult problem that you're already teaching them how to solve with your info. And you're the authority. They already bought something from you. So if you have already sold them something, they've achieved results, and you recommend a software product that you own, you're not affiliating for, that you actually own, and you've used, you've built for the exact use case, you're going to be able to convert a percentage of those people onto your software. So you basically Trojan horse the SaaS with info, and you let your trust, your authority, your content, and the results you deliver through info do all of the heavy lifting and let you build a 6, 7, 8, 9 figure software asset that you can exit down the line, unlike being able to exit info. So if you want to build your own software product, if you're already a coach, consultant, course seller, an info business owner that is already doing well selling information, and you haven't layered software into your funnel, we do this for info product owners. We've done this for dozens of info product owners, just basically turning a small piece of their solution into a software, letting them build a business that grows in recurring revenue and grows in enterprise value without them. And if you want to do the same, book a call with me and my team, and we'll walk you through the exact idea, the exact process, and how you can also copy this play. So there's going to be a form below this video. Go ahead, fill out that form, and we'll see you there. See ya.